I welcome all attendants, our guests from Croatia, Serbia and Austria, and especially our conference speakers. We are looking forward to learn from you and sharing our thoughts and concerns. Some speakers are already known to Slovenian readers. Michel Housson's book, Čisti kapitalizam, Pure Capitalism, was already translated, and this today you can buy it in the museum's bookshop. I'm happy also to announce that Guy Standing's book is going to be translated this year. This conference was organized together with Mexican partner UNITIERA in the frame of the project with a long name, and I have to read it, Transcontinental Cooperation in Addressing Labor Conditions and Labor Relations in the Times of Economic Crisis and Social Reforms. At this occasion, I would like to thank our partner, Gustavo Esteva from UNITIERA, with whom it was a challenge to work, and we hope we will continue our collaboration in future. I will give you just a few words about the project. This project is a pilot project with the aim to strengthen the capacities of the two institutions, UNITIERA and Mironi Institute, from the two distant continents to address probably the most important common social question, the deteriorating socio-economic position of working people. During the project we have learned that both partners use different approaches and styles, also due to very different social conditions we live in. However, I'm strongly convinced that Mexico is the future of Slovenia or any other European country, so your experiences are very important to us. We have also learned that we must resolutely react to dismantling of previous social and political rights in the world, and that international solidarity is essential for the success of our text. We need also to accept that we have in Europe our own sweatshops, namely working conditions of precarious workers, and that we have to respond to increasing poverty and dismantling of social rights. I will give a word to our partner, Gustavo Esteva, and then to Neža Kogovšek Šalamon, the director of Mironi Institute. But beside me is the founder of the project and very dear member actually of our team, who was following our project very closely and writing very bright comments. So I would like to invite Mr. Goran Buldioski to speak a few words in the name of the founder, the think tank fund, which funded this project together with the East-East Partnership Beyond Borders program.
Thank you very much, Maja. You know, my name is Goran Buldioski. I'm director of a fund that supports research. It's part of Open Society Foundations. The fund is based in Budapest, and it covers, until recently, all the 20 countries in Eastern Europe, but also we have increasingly started working in Western Europe as the problems have mushroomed. As you know, donors are invited to give money and opening speeches, so I will try to get away from the sort of the cliches there. I will try to get away from cliches because donors are expected to give money and respect for research. In Think Tank Fund we do both, so we don't need to pay a lip service. I will focus on the challenges that we as a liberal donor, and probably I should underscore socially liberal donor, we have in Europe today. I mean, Open Society Foundation, I'm sure it's well known to you. There are not many secrets about that, but also Open Society Foundations operated on the sort of if I can call it theory of change, that there will be a middle class, that there will be a middle class with right values, that will support a lot of solidarity in society, that will be in favor of a social contract that will make those society progress. And actually we're in big trouble at the moment, because we, in many countries throughout the region, we don't see the people that we always try to support, or we see them really being dwindling. As this impressive list of speakers here, and the title of the conference, and one of the speakers that you will hear about talks about the precariat. Living in Hungary, I have to tell you, probably we have the biggest issue there, as those people who are above the precariat, they don't want to become one, but then they're ready and they lose a lot of values that we thought or we took for granted. They lost a lot of values which are related to human rights. They lost a lot of values which are related to a stable democracy. And I have to say, for all of us, there is a tall order. And the tall order is not only to think about the concepts, not only to think about the theories, but also to think how to start addressing and how to think of instruments that would help to move back to more democratic societies. And I have to tell you, it's not easy, because in most of the countries where we work, there are not many people to listen. Then we are faced with a very serious problem when people like us uncover a lot of loss of accountability and corruption in the society. It turned out that it plays best into the hand of extreme populists. As you know, throughout the region there are a lot of populist parties, and people like us actually dish on the table a lot of good data about how mainstream politics have stolen from the society, but unfortunately this news is not, this data and this research is not used by those that we expect to do, but it's used by extreme populist parties, who often dubbed as an anti-corruption parties, and being undirtied themselves have a bit of credibility on that issue. We still don't know how to address this, as I would say, as a foundation, but I can probably extend it in general. I'm really grateful to Peace Institute and to Maja for this project. It is really something that we were operating in the dark. When I say operating in the dark, I mentioned we are a donor that has focused on Europe. As Open Society Foundations, we have a global presence, but this is one of 5 pilot projects where we try to bring international partners. And we try to bring international partners from far away. My colleagues in New York were very skeptical about that, actually, my bosses. They said, why do you need to bring people all the way from Mexico or other continents? You know, there are some of these things that maybe you in Europe can learn from your neighbors. And they have right. We can learn a lot of things from the neighbors. But we also, when we looked at these exchanges with faraway lands, we learned that context is different, but some of the basic principles are the same. Then we also learned that a lot of exchanges have happened only with biased intermediaries, be that the World Bank or IMF or bilateral donors, who always had a bit of an agenda which was not so much about the agenda of the locals as much as the agenda of the international institutions. And last but not least, I have to say, as a European, you know, we had to break a bit our Eurocentric behavior in a way. We always thought that we know best, and in a way we were ready to export things, but not necessarily ready to learn from the others. And I'm talking mainly about the mainstreams. I think academics and researchers have done their bit. And I also believe that this type of cooperation will not only expose to others, but as well will help us to shape the opinion of others, because working with my colleagues in other regions, I realize more and more that we have an image problem, that we are seen as a sort of a spoiled crybabies who had it too good for too long, and now when a bit of tough times are ahead, we really don't know how to get our act together. That's why I believe, and I was really pleasantly surprised and actually impressed with this cooperation. When you look at the map, combining Mexico and Slovenia doesn't seem like a logical step, and I have to tell you, I gave a lot of tough time to these guys over here to justify how come that this could be compared. And I think we were both right in a way that you cannot compare them when you look at the map, but when you look about social contracts, when you look about societies, there are a lot of things to be learned from each other. I'm really looking forward. I'm really grateful for your invitation. And you know, let's finish on the money issue. I mean, this is something which is well spent, and I hope we will continue. Thanks.
Thank you very much. My dear friend Gustavo, the word is yours.
Buenos días. I am Gustavo Esteva. I am coming from Oaxaca. Oaxaca is the poorest state of Mexico, and it is very difficult to find a place more different than Slovenia. It is really almost impossible to compare Oaxaca with Slovenia. It is not only because of the weather, the climate. We are having these days 36 degrees in Oaxaca, but it is because it is a country, a province of Mexico, in which 2/3 of the population are indigenous people, for 16 different cultures. It is an incredible richness in culture, and we are also a place of mega diversity. We are one of the places on earth with more natural diversity. It is really a very, very diverse country and very different country. Some people may think that we are experts in precarity, that we are in the right place to come to discuss our expertise, because most of the time, most of the people of Oaxaca have been living in what is described usually as precarious conditions. They belong to that specific category. They belong to this dangerous class before it was invented. We have been in that condition. But perhaps we can now discuss the precarity of the precarious. When we started to work with great surprise and pleasure with Maja Breznik and the Milovnik Institute, we discovered that in spite of our incredible differences, our incredible contrast, we are really extremely different. We are facing very similar problems, and we are having very similar questions. What to do before this disaster? It is not only the case of Oaxaca, where we will discuss how the people have been reacting before the disaster and have been creating very innovative alternatives to the current situation. It is also because Mexico is falling apart. Mexico, the country, hopefully is not the future of Slovenia. Hopefully it's not the prospect that you will have. The category of failed state is a failed category. But when the State Department of the US classified Mexico with Congo and Pakistan as 3 failed states, they had a point. We had the most fatal conflict in the world. We have 100,000 dead in the last 5 years. It is really a very, very serious conflict. I will not discuss that conflict now. But we have a very serious situation in economic, social, political terms, in every possible aspect, with an incredible amount of violence. And at the same time, in the same place, we have an incredible number of creative solutions by the people. The people reclaiming their lives, reclaiming their possibilities, and trying to reconstruct the society falling apart, to reorganize the society from the bottom up, and trying to find an alternative way. We are convinced, and even in these days that I have been in Slovenia, we are more and more convinced than ever that we can learn a lot from each other. Not in spite of our differences, but because of our differences. Because we face similar problems, that we are dealing with these problems using our differences as a possibility to follow the proper paths for everyone. It is really an honor and a pleasure to be here with the incredible organization of Maja and the Institute, and I'm sure that we will learn a lot listening to all the speakers and to all the participation of you. Thank you.
I would ask Neža, Kogovšek, Šalamon, the director of Mirovni Institute, to have the 4th and final address, and then to start already the first session.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Dear guests, distinguished colleagues, a very warm welcome also from my side and on behalf of the Peace Institute, which is hosting this event together with our partners from Mexico, the organization Unitera, that you will get to know better during the day. We have gathered here today to discuss one of the most burning issues of this globalized world. It's the persistent and widespread precarity which exists in all geographies and in all spheres of life. The established systems of welfare states, where they existed at all, are not functioning the way they used to, and we can observe how they shrink by day. Austerity measures and shock therapies seem to be a daily reality across the globe, hitting now one country and tomorrow another. Europe is far from being an exception, as we well know, even though many Europeans have always believed that this cannot happen to them. A couple of short decades ago it was Poland. Right now we can observe the beginning of this process in Cyprus, and we have been following the struggle of Greece for quite some time now. And the world media increasingly mentions Slovenia as a country to be the next in line. We'll see in the following months whether this reality is the case also for us. However, even without applying for the EU bailout system, we can just take a look around and get the information that we need. There are 400,000 people living in poverty in Slovenia today, as we speak, which is 1/5 of the population. And the number of unemployed is approaching 120,000. Even those who have jobs struggle in precarity, and a number of working poor is increasing daily. Having a job is no longer an equivalent to being safe. Not having a job means being destined to poverty, especially since the available social assistances shrank to amounts far from those that would be required to sustain one's even most basic dignity. Today we will hear about a dozen excellent speakers who will help us to think about these issues. They intrigue us all. The morning session will begin with the presentations of Michel Husson, guy standing on my left, and Maja Breznik, whom you already met. So I would like to welcome the three speakers of the first morning panel that I will moderate. And I would already like to ask Mr. Husson to start with his presentation.